It was supposed to be a joke, a cruel, heartless prank played in broad daylight at a cozy cafe filled with laughter, sunlight, and the smell of freshly brewed coffee. But for Ethan Miller, a hard-working single dad who had already seen more pain than he ever deserved, it would become a day that changed not just his life, but the hearts of everyone who witnessed it. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of seeing beauty beyond appearances, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner, because your support helps stories like this reach those who need them most. Ethan was 37, a man whose tired eyes carried the weight of love lost too soon. His wife, Claire, had passed away when their daughter was just 6. For years, he had devoted himself completely to little Sophie, juggling 2 jobs, scraping through long nights, and surviving on instant coffee and quiet tears. Despite the exhaustion, he never complained. He'd tell Sophie, "We may not have much, but we have each other, and that's enough." One afternoon, after dropping Sophie off at her friend's birthday party, Ethan's coworkers convinced him to try something new. They told him they'd set up a fun blind date at a cafe nearby. He hesitated, unsure if he was ready for something like that, but their laughter, their promises that it would be good for him, eventually wore him down. What Ethan didn't know was that the fun date wasn't meant to help him. It was meant to humiliate him. When he arrived, wearing his cleanest shirt and a hopeful smile he hadn't worn in years, he saw her sitting by the window. Her name was Marissa. She was plus-sized, shy, and nervously stirring her drink as if trying to make herself invisible. Around the corner, hidden behind a tall partition, a group of Ethan's coworkers watched with their phones ready, whispering and snickering. To them it was entertainment watching the sad single dad meet the fat girl. Ethan walked toward her table, and for a moment the laughter in the background seemed to fade. Marissa looked up, her brown eyes flickering with fear and hope at the same time. He could tell she wasn't used to being treated kindly. Something about her reminded him of himself, someone the world had decided to overlook. He smiled softly and sat down. "Hi, Marissa," he said. "I'm Ethan. I hope I didn't keep you waiting too long." She blinked, clearly surprised by his warmth. "Oh, no, not at all," she murmured. "You actually showed up. Most people don't." Her voice trembled, and it wasn't hard to guess why. They talked, slowly at first, awkwardly, but then with ease. Marissa worked at a small bookstore. She loved poetry, painting, and baking, especially on quiet Sunday mornings. Ethan told her about Sophie, about how his daughter could light up a room with her smile. The two of them laughed about silly things, like how coffee never tasted the same once it went cold, or how movie theaters always ran out of napkins at the wrong time. But behind the partition, phones kept recording, the whispers turning to quiet chuckles. The cruel pranksters waited for Ethan to realize the joke. Only he never did. An hour passed. Marissa's shoulders had relaxed. She was smiling now, really smiling, as if for the first time in a long while someone had looked at her and actually seen her. Not her body, not her size, but her. Ethan's kindness disarmed her fears. When Ethan excused himself to get more coffee, one of the pranksters, Tyler, decided to end it. He walked up to the table, grinning mockingly, and said just loud enough for Marissa to hear, "You do know this was a setup, right? It was a joke. We didn't think he'd actually show." The color drained from Marissa's face. She froze, hands trembling, eyes glassy with shame and disbelief. She turned toward Ethan, who was walking back, 2 steaming cups in his hands. He noticed the look in her eyes and the smirk on Tyler's face, and then he understood. Setting the cups down, Ethan stood still for a moment, his jaw tightening. The cafe grew silent. Everyone could feel the tension in the air. "Is that true?" Marissa whispered, her voice breaking. Ethan looked at her, then at the small crowd watching from the corner, and finally back to her. His next words silenced the entire cafe. "Marissa," he said softly, "I came here to meet a person, and that's exactly what I found. A kind, beautiful soul. If anyone thinks this is a joke, that says more about them than it ever will about you." Tyler's smirk vanished. The group lowered their phones, suddenly ashamed. Marissa covered her mouth, tears welling up in her eyes. Ethan reached across the table and took her hand gently. "Don't let small people make you feel small," he said quietly. "You deserve to be seen, truly seen." For the first time in years, Marissa cried, not from pain, but from relief. Relief that someone, somewhere, still had decency in them. Ethan didn't care about the prank, or the laughter, or the humiliation meant for him. He had been through worse, but what he couldn't stand was cruelty disguised as humor. He stood up, turned to the group, and said calmly, "You wanted to laugh at someone today. I hope you're happy. Because while you were busy mocking, I was busy meeting one of the most genuine people I've ever met." His words cut through the silence like sunlight breaking through dark clouds. People nearby began to whisper, not with laughter this time, but admiration. Ethan and Marissa left the cafe together. Outside, the sun was bright, the air soft with the sound of the city around them. Marissa looked down, wiping her tears, but Ethan smiled. "You know," he said, "Sophie's been asking me to bake cookies with her. Maybe you could teach us how." She laughed through her tears. "I'd like that." Weeks passed, and that chance meeting, born from cruelty, blossomed into something tender and real. Ethan introduced Marissa to Sophie, and the little girl adored her instantly. The three of them began spending weekends together, painting, baking, and watching old movies. Marissa found the family she never thought she'd have, and Ethan found a friend who brought warmth back into his home. Months later, on Sophie's 10th birthday, as friends and neighbors gathered in their small backyard, Marissa stood beside Ethan, her eyes full of quiet joy. It wasn't a fairy tale, but it was something better, real, imperfect, and built on kindness. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner, because sometimes one small act of empathy can change a life forever. And before you go, comment below with these words: "Kindness is never a joke.